Hello, vintage crafty artist. So today I'm going to play around a little bit because my daughter commissioned me to make something for her boyfriend from her for Valentine's Day. So she sent this picture to me and I removed the background and I created actually three different sizes because I was not sure exactly what I was going to do with it. I have a few ideas. However, I am still going to see where it takes me. So here is the final result. For my crafty friends, I take you through the step-by-step of creating this project. I start with talking you through some of the details, but I end the video fast forwarding through the process. So enjoy and let me know if you make something like it. Remember to subscribe to the channel. It is my goal to provide tutorials and demonstrations and create a community around creating. So subscribe, like this video, and please hit the bell so that you can be alerted of when I upload new videos. I am starting with an etc. tag. This is the mini tag. So I'm going to use one of these. I'm going to pull the tag out with the reinforcer. This. Okay. I am going to use the Sizzix 3D Texture Phase Large Brickwork Embossing Folder. And I am choosing this embossing folder because it should be able to fit this full tag. I want a complete coverage and I don't want to have to piecemeal my paper. And next, I am going to use, for the first time, I'm going to use this Artist Loft Mixed Media Pad in black. Okay, it feels a little thin. So let's see how it works because I am going to be using paints and oxides and some water. I'm not sure how much yet because I'm going to try to create a brickwork. Okay, so let's see. So that's what we have as far as the materials. I have my trusty distress sprayer. I have my distress heat tool, my very loved heat tool. I have some distress oxide and black soot, hickory smoke. I brought out my minis. I do have the full size, but I have not used the minis yet. So I'm going to bring these out because I am envisioning creating some rusty spots. So I want to use the rusty hinge distress oxide. And although we're not working with wood, I am going to use the weathered wood because, hey, I want the brick wall to look a bit weathered. I also have a few distressed paints. I have a lost shadow, I have a black soot, and I have the antique linen. And then I also have an artist loft paint in burnt sienna. Now, I really don't know what I'm going to do specifically because I'm making the brick wall from black paper. So let's see. Oh, also I have golden regular gel matte because I will be gluing and sealing the, the, the picture to the paper because I want to also emboss the picture because I want it to look like it is a part of the brick wall. Now, initially, but this was before I decided to use the black paper, I wanted to have a graffiti look on the wall. So let me run and get a stamp set that I'm going to use, and I'm going to think about what color I'm going to stamp that with, because I'm using black. So not everything shows up on black. And the reason why I'm using distress oxide as opposed to a distress ink, distressed ink is a dye-based ink, so it's translucent, whereas distress oxide is a pigment and dye blend. So distress oxide shows up on dark paper. So okay, so I am going to begin by fussy cutting the picture out. But before I do that, I'm just going to play with sizes, perspectives to see if I want pretty much this whole thing with the image, meaning you won't see much of the background, much of the brickwork, or I can use the smaller paper, which will give me more brickwork. However, I'm just not sure what else I'll put on here to make it more interesting. But as I was saying that, I'm thinking I am going to use the smaller one because my daughter's boyfriend is a comedian. I'm not sure who this guy is. Maybe he's a comedian too. So I'm thinking maybe I can add some die cuts to the wall that says laugh or love to laugh or something comedic. I don't want a white border, so I'm going to go as close as possible. And since this is for a man, I'm using all of the blacks because I just want to keep it very masculine, kind of dark and moody. I want it to feel like a gift for a man. I want it to be the dark liquor of mixed media art projects. And whatever white that I leave, I'm just going to go back around and clean it up. And one tip when you're fussy cutting is to try to leave the scissors straight and turn the actual substrate or the paper that you're cutting. So I'm going to begin by gluing these gentlemen down to a piece of flat mixed media cardstock. So I am going to actually glue them down and I'm going to run them through the embossing folder. I think it'll give it more dimension, but I'm just trying to decide if I want to just glue them down to the main page and emboss them directly or emboss them on a separate page and try to, I think I'm going to glue them directly on the paper that I'm going to emboss and just make it a part of the page. That's what we're gonna do. Now this is just truly one of those sessions where I am just seeing what I get and not throwing a fit. I'm gonna kind of place this in the middle because I'm gonna have to cut this paper down to be able to fit. I'm gonna get something to burnish this. I always keep any little card, gift card, expired credit card, like I don't throw any of them away. You can find a use for everything. Sure, it's so thin, it dries really fast, but hopefully if I seal them, if I get some of the different mediums on here, I'll be able to easily wash it off. We're experimenting. I've never done this. I've actually never embossed something with medium on it, so that itself is going to be interesting because that can open up a world of possibilities depending on how it comes out. There's a technique with distress crayons that you use by sealing the picture first. Usually seal it with distress collage medium. I haven't tried it with anything else, but in the end, a matte medium is a matte medium. A glue is a glue. You know, it's either matte or is glossy, but I don't see why one would be that different, so I'm just assuming that maybe you can use it. I'm going to cut this. Actually, I'm just going to emboss it first. So I'm going to just cut it down to the size of the embossing folder. And the great thing about this large Sizzix folder is that it allows you to get just more space. Sizzix, what is this called? Is it Tim Holtz Sizzix? But it's called something. I'll try to link everything. But this is called the Big Shot Switch Plus. It's electric, so you don't have to do a lot of cranking. Not that it's that difficult. Like, you can totally live without it. So I'm gonna just sit this here for a moment. I am going to spritz my paper because you just want to kind of loosen those fibers up a bit. And I've never used this paper. I'm gonna be honest, it feels a little thin. So hopefully it works out. Try to put in here as straight as possible because once you wet your paper, it starts folding. Just want to carefully lay this down so it doesn't crease. Place this at a slight angle on the base, and then I'm going to put the cover. I'm going to turn the machine on, run it through. But that's why you might want to be a little careful. Okay, I love the way they disappear into this wall. That's amazing because it's so subtle. I can kind of see an outline, but it doesn't bother me that much because it feels like it gives it a shadow, but it like also really disappears. Like, I don't know, I really like that. Still getting a little excited. So now I am going to try to just work with my colors. Now I'm wondering if I should mask them off because I want every place around them colored. I don't want them colored. So, what can I use? This is the only problem with kind of winging it, is that you don't have all the materials out that you need, but that's okay. That's what creative play is all about. Yeah, just came across this. I wasn't planning to use this, but I am, just to kind of add some texture. You know what? Maybe this will actually help me get around in smaller places. And if this was white paper, I would do the antique linen, but I'm wondering if I should do the lost shadow. I don't know if I want it kind of warm or cool because I have the hickory smoke oxide, which is on the cool side. I have the distress oxide, which is on the cool side. The weathered wood is kind of on the cool side. I do have the rusty hinge, but I think I'm going to go with the distress paint and lost shadow. And then I'll add the rusty hinge in places to kind of bring in that warmth. And then from there, if I think I need a little more, then I can add the antique linen spray. What do you think? And I was going to start off with the brayer. I have a really big sprayer right here. And to be honest, I just don't feel like digging for a smaller one. So I'm just like using what's close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small piece and I'm going to brayer it. And I'm going to sponge it. And I'm going to see what result I get. And that's going to help me kind of decide where I'm going to go. So I'm just going to take just a little. I'm not going to even braid it the whole thing. I'm going to take the corner of it. And then I'm going to just. Wondering, it's kind of like, why would you use black cardstock if you're gonna just, so I got them a little bit, you're gonna just go over it with a light paint. But it gives us a dark kind of undercoat. And you know what, as it dries, I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna worry. I'm just gonna try to go around it. Like, I don't think I need to really wet it so much, because if I need to bring the water element in, instead of spraying, I can just use a paintbrush. So let's see what we get with a sponge. Oh wow, okay, totally different application. Totally different. But I'm going to use that to kind of go around them. And that seems like it actually adds a shadow. And remember, I don't know exactly where I'm going to cut. And it's so funny, they blend into the back so well. Now I'm happy that I left those little lines. Oh my God. Okay, I'm in love. I love it. 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 I do need a little corner because I want to kind of ease in the middle there to kind of go around. I may introduce a brush. I'm just trying to, this part may get cut off at the bottom because, depending on where we are, I'm going to try to go in between. That way we can kind of define where they are in their legs. They blend in so well. So I like the way that kind of frames them. I'm going to get a smaller flat brush because I want to kind of get in these little areas. That way I can really, it's kind of like reverse shadowing, because shadows are usually darker. I don't know what it's called when you use kind of a lighter color, but putting that, it kind of brings out, it kind of brings them out more. So before it was really fading into the background, but now that I'm going in and I'm defining their bodies, it's like easier to distinguish them and kind of pull them out. So I'm going to take this same brush and then I'm just going to kind of go around a little more detailed than I was able to do with the sponge. And I'm going to just kind of lay it on a little thick just so you can see that outline. I did get a little paint here. I'm not going to blend out in this area because I just really want that definition separating them from the background. So even though they are a part of the brick, just for the sake of the technique I wanted to try, they're kind of pushed out too. Nice. I was worried about a black brick wall at first, but now the paint is covering it so well, but it's giving it like a undertone to where when I do this with white, I have to use so many inks just to kind of give it that darkness. So it's actually cool using a color paper because in a way it feels like you can save some paint or ink or whatever it is you're using. This is why it's important to experiment. You never know what you're going to get. Because I had no idea starting. I just knew that I was going to do the brick and I was going to do the picture. I thought that the picture was actually going to be separate. But at the last minute, I decided to do directly. Actually, I was going to emboss the picture with the paper, but I was going to do a separate one and kind of try to paste it on. So I'm really happy. Then we'll add details later, but I'm loving that. Oh gosh, I love that. All right. You know, honestly, it makes me want to kind of paint the whole wall, but I'm not. I don't think I'm going to do that. But what I do think I'm going to do is I'm going to sponge the background because it gives it fuller coverage than the brayer. But not, oh, well, uh, now remember, we have some of the other colors that we're going to go in with. So this is kind of like a first layer just to knock out some of that black before we come in and add some of the other like accent colors. Now this part is so scary because you do all this work and then one little mishap, you feel like you kind of ruined the whole thing. But again, sometimes you have to trust the process. All right, so I'm going to dry this and then we're going to figure out what's next. So I'm noticing this kind of obvious separation. So I'm going to make sure I pay attention to that because I don't want it that obvious. I want that blended out a little more. I like the white or the lost shadow around the image. And I may keep that kind of glow. But I will definitely go in and blend in some of the other colors. I think I need to bring in some type of bluish. I think I'm gonna grab peacock feathers. I want a little more brightness. I think I'm gonna also grab crackling campfire because I don't think Rusty Hinge is gonna give me the amount of color that I want. I also have this. So I'm gonna put this paint on next because I want the paints to dry because once I start using the oxides, then I can start playing with water and spraying and kind of playing with the outcome. I really, let me follow my first mind because I keep being lazy and using this huge brayer and I feel like I'm going to ruin something. So let me take a moment and find a smaller brayer. So I have my small brayer. That way I can kind of get in some nooks and crannies without worrying about accidentally getting the picture, because right now I'm working with permanent medias and I do not want to start over because I don't have all night to craft. I am actually applying to a doctorate program and I need to read this 13-page article, think about it, process it, and be ready to have a conversation about it at about 9 o'clock in the morning. And I don't want to take the chance of waiting into the morning. I want to be sure that I'm prepared. I haven't started using water yet, but I was just going to say, like, I'm kind of impressed with how it's fairly thin mixed media paper is coming along. And right now, this is just a little bright for me. I'm just looking for like kind of an old, dusty, crusty wall. Like imagine you're at a comedy club in some seedy part of town and you see either somebody you know or somebody you admire. You take a picture. That's kind of what the look I'm going for. I like the brayer because you're just getting like skippity. It's not like a full, you notice when I used the brush, it was very like opaque and it just really covered. But I want to be able to see the texture of this brick wall. And what I'm going to do when I start, I may get my sprayers. I don't know, honestly. I pulled out my ink pads, but I don't know if that's the best or I should get my distress ink sprays. And I'm just gonna grab a piece of paper and I'm just kind of gonna cut it in a little oval shape to cover them so that I can have a little fun with the sprays. I think the sprays will get in a little deeper, but I don't want it to, we're playing, okay? I don't know exactly. We'll play. I'll play with the oxides, particularly the minis, because I can probably really concentrate them in some areas. I'm gonna bring in the sponge because I want to keep that glow around them, but it's too defined right now. I don't want it that defined. So I'm gonna go in with the sponge and try to sponge a little closer to kind of blend that shadow out a bit more. Because right now it does look a little defined, but you know, I like the auras. I like the look of auras. So I like that I lined it crisply like around them, but I don't necessarily need this huge like white halo. I want it to look like kind of a back glow. It still looks halo-ish because the paints are a different color. But as we start just bringing in more, it'll hopefully all just blend itself out. This is, well, clean is not the right word, but it's one that's dry. And I'm going to try to buff out some of this here. Let's go in and use the rest of my paint. I'm going to play with some of the other colors that I have here. I'm gonna just hit it with the heat gun really quickly because I don't want to contaminate my oxides with paint, although they do feel dry, which I just want to be sure. I like it because it's not like it's the most crisp picture because it's a part of the background, but at the same time, you can see them clearly. So I'm just gonna go pad to paper. I don't want it to look like a square, but we're just gonna see what we get. Okay. Well, okay, I like that. However, I'm trying to add color, and this is looking a lot like the Lost Shadow. So I'm gonna need something like a more contrasting color. Although I like the way this kind of adding some light details. But I definitely need a contrasting color. This is actually, okay, I like that. And again, this is water reactive. So on top of this, I can add some splatters. But I definitely need a contrasting color. Let me hit the dryer really quickly. Wet on wet blends, wet on dry layers. I'm gonna definitely get some peacock feathers. It's kind of like a teal color. And I'm going to get crackling campfire because it's still a red, so it's still in this warm, but it's just gonna add, I think it's gonna add like that more rusty color that I was going for. And then I'm wondering here, am I gonna take down that color a bit? I need to get some paint kind of in between, but I'm scared to use the brush because I don't really want to make it super like, maybe if I just kind of pounce it a little bit lightly. I want some of the color down there. Okay. I'm gonna grab my peacock feather in the spray as well as the pads. Okay, so I grabbed my minis. I'm gonna grab peacock feather. Peacock feather is one of my favorites distress colors. Peacock feather and crackling campfire, which I did not grab. Okay, so I grabbed my crackling campfire distress mini, and I also grabbed the sprays. I'm gonna save the sprays for last, possibly for splatters. But can I take a moment and I want to manifest real quick. I actually grabbed my minis because they are easier to get to, because they're in boxes and they're put away. And when I create, I have not figured out how to map out exactly what I want to do in the beginning. But we're going to take a moment to manifest. I am seeing a craft room, a dedicated craft room with a place for everything that I can see at all times, and I can easily pick and I can put it back, and everything has its place, and the space is ever expanding to accommodate all of my crafty desires. So today, February 13th at, what time is it? It is 7:40. That's what I am saying. So let's see how long that takes. You guys are my witnesses.
This is a dream that I have had since lunch, and I am not giving up on it now.
So I decided initially it was going to be on here, the etc. tag. I had sized it, everything to go on this. But at the last minute, I decided to use just this wood block that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. So this is the end of the process of making the brick wall with the embedded picture. I hope you enjoyed the video. I tried to be mindful of the length of the video. It started out as a 3-hour video that I tried to cut and only put the major areas in there that you would need to recreate this project. Please let me know your thoughts, and if you do recreate this project, please let me know in the comments. I love to see it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Happy crafting. Take care.